No problem. Anyway, what I wish to discuss today is a topic of male shaming and so-called mental illness. And there's no such thing as mental illness because the mind is not separate from the body. I've heard that for a long time. It was only about 5 or 6 years ago that I figured out what the main issues were. And all these people around me, mainly women, talking about the latest fad diet, nutrition this, nutrition that, and they don't look or act any better. First of all, they're not getting proper measurements of all the foundational elements of their body, and it's a big topic. But anyway, that's the main topics. So, what is your experience with the concept of mental illness? I see you're like a coach, a soccer coach or something as well.
Yeah, I've coached soccer. I've been involved in the club business for many, many years.
Oh,
So as far as mental illness, what do I see that with men? I just think with men, it's typically, if you go to the gym, you work out, that you have a purpose. You know what your purpose is.
My
You're working
God,
on some
it's an
type of
invasion.
project, and you have opportunities to do those things. Usually, that kind of cures mental illness. Right?
well, it's actually that's what I used to think, and that's what a lot of people think. If they think
shit.
it's just some kind of you're not doing enough, like you're just not convincing yourself enough, you're not keeping busy enough. It's usually far more than that. When you think about the biochemistry of the body, all of the foundational elements of the body, and how these things are imbalanced, we don't even know. All of the substances in our body, vitamins, minerals, proteins, amino acids, and the measurements. There's different measurements. You can go to a doctor and get blood tests. That's mainly what they do there. But blood is useful, but it's a very limited thing because blood does not. Like I went to school for this. It took me 3 years or more to learn these things. But anyway, blood is not. It's mainly a limited snapshot in time, and it doesn't. It's not. It's mainly a transport medium. It doesn't store much of anything.
Interesting.
So what the establishment, like when you go to a college, they have all these specialized subjects, right? And that's a big problem, is that that's called reductionism. We reduce the world, the universe, and the world around us and ourselves into component parts for easier study. It's actually good for studying it's good for studying specialized things, but it doesn't teach. The schools don't teach system science or systems thinking. They want armies of specialists.
Doctor, what happened? Plane crash.
I gotta work fast. I got a lunch.
I think you're missing the big picture here, Doc.
Nurse, check his penis. Is it longer than mine?
No, doctor.
Good. Now this is gonna hurt. Ah! Nurse, give me 15 cc's of morphine quickly.
That's what happens.
think you can save it?
Can't be sure. Not a very good doctor.
Yeah.
So you're thinking out of the box. That's good.
Yeah, and then when you go to a doctor for a health problem, we mainly only go to the doctor when you get sick. You don't think about why you're getting sick in the first place. If we were to get our bodies analyzed like a botanist would for a plant,
right?
We would have far less illnesses, and if you could restore your health.
Yes, I have a friend who was just telling me he took a test.
Yeah.
Where it showed what minerals he was lacking, where he could strengthen his body a little bit. What was deficient. I think I may not be answering this correctly, but I think that's kind of what you're speaking of, being on that kind of a track where it opens up to much more besides just checking the blood.
Correct. Yeah. And what I do, the main method I use to analyze clients is called nutritional symptomatology. And it's not merely food. For the longest time, I thought nutrition just meant food. I said, no, it's cellular nutrition. Remember, it's like basic high school biology, but we kind of forget that stuff. Doctors and nurses forget that stuff when they go to these schools, these specialized schools. They mainly only go to a school to fix people when they're sick, and they don't even fix them. So when we say there's healthcare in Canada, no, we've never had healthcare in Canada. It was always sick care. It was always sick care. But we are given these definitions by the politicians, by the scientists on the television, right? And holy mother! So I knew this. I don't know what your politics are. Everyone has different views on things, but the lockdowns for this so-called pandemic, there was no pandemic because there's no such thing as a virus.
Right. Well, like. Now it's not even. It's much worse in the sense of what we're talking about, because not only do we have bad information or
Yeah.
people locked into systems, but we
Yeah.
also have these monstrous marketing campaigns coming
Yeah.
in from big food, big pharma, and trying to sell stuff to us, or a way of life or a way of eating that's improper, and then we're sold this in these
Yeah.
giant psyops that they do.
Yeah.
So we're it's leading us right into doing the exact opposite often of what you should be doing as far as keeping your good health. I know I'm 66 now, and I'm just learning about this stuff. I've learned from you. I've learned from some of my friends in jujitsu classes that
Yeah.
they're much more informed than I have been on the proper ways of eating and maintaining your health. It's
Yeah.
been fascinating, but this stuff was just, a lot of the stuff that I was taught or told to by doctors was just
Yeah.
the exact opposite of what somebody like yourself would probably tell me to do.
Yeah. And I could tell you my story, but how I was treated when I told people like, when you tell people you might have mental illness, they a lot of people get scared, and you stigmatize yourself when there's no such thing. But most people, they just say they have basic ideas on certain topics that they mainly get from the media or what they hear from other friends, right?
Right.
And it's like a trap you get yourself into, because once you get that label, it's impossible to get rid of it. Even from your insurance record, because in Canada everything is logged. The doctor, whatever you tell him, he records everything. And when you go to a specialist, they give you a diagnosis. You're finished.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You have these things in your record for life.
Yeah. Even if it's like mild depression or anxiety or whatever, they're going to list that. That's going to follow you.
And we wonder why so many men, especially men, don't go to the doctor when they complain about these things. They would rather just drink themselves to death, but eventually they're going to end up in the emergency ward, doing that. But anyway, that's the big reason why men especially don't try to get help for any health problem.
Yes, that's very interesting.
I'm going to try an experiment here. Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to try an experiment here, try to share a video. I hope it works this time.
Capitol went into lockdown yesterday after a woman tried to drive through a barricade outside the White House. The investigation now shows the woman was on medication for mental health problems, and relatives said she suffered from mental health issues.
Germanwings tragedy amid reports the co-pilot who deliberately brought down that plane was suffering from depression.
Depression affects more than 16 million people in this country.
Colleagues now telling us that Kevin Denny had been dealing with depression before yesterday's tragic shooting.
State report obtained by NBC News says mental health counselors found Cruz was depressed.
Enough from the clown.
Let's not blow this out of proportion.
Even taken as a whole, people with mental illness account for only a very small percentage of the violence in our society.
School authorities tell a mother that her son is sick and needs to be on drugs. How in the world is she to know that that is simply a lie? How is she to recognize that what experts now call attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is simply not a disease?
We don't really understand at a deeper level that we are what we eat.
1950, we used to lock them up forever. In 2007, we lock them up with their drugs forever. No behavior or misbehavior is a disease or can be a disease. That's not what diseases are.
We're going back to physiology and biochemistry rather than pharmacology. We assume that the body has the ability to heal itself.
Why do you have to label people? I hate labels. So you have to ask the classic Roman question, legal question, cui bono, who benefits? The people who makes the diagnosis.
Not many, but there are some psychiatrists, some doctors, some medical people that come out publicly, that have been coming out publicly for over the decades, saying there's no such thing as mental illness, no such thing as cancer. And a lot of people know that there's big pharma controlling things, but they don't know the details, right? It's really scary.
Right. But who's making those like mental illness with men? Some will say right now, Elon Musk has a mental illness, right? His form of autism.
Autism. He says he has autism. There's no such thing as autism. It's just it's a label given to it. There's a lot of buzzwords and meaningless phrases that are like metabolic syndrome. We call that for someone fat now. It's accumulation of all these labels that are often meaningless, or they have their own meaning. Remember I said there's two branches of science: reductionist science and systems science, or holism. Right. And
Right.
the word holistic, it has become wishy-washy or trivial. It's been made trivial. You see all these celebrity influencers online, and and you don't know if what they're saying is the truth, because a lot of them are actually being paid by big pharma to confuse you.
I gotta work fast. I got a lunch.
I think you're missing the big picture here, Doc.
Nurse, check his penis. Is it longer than mine?
No, Doctor.
Good. Now this is gonna hurt. Ah! Nurse, give me 15 cc's of morphine, quickly.
You think you can save him?
Can't be sure. I'm not a very good doctor. That's good. Thank you, nurse. You'll have to wait here.
Your mothers and your sisters, you are reducing them into objects. You must protest against this. I've met hundreds of them, how distorted they've become. They're beginning to say it is fashionable even for women also to watch. You're doing the dumbest thing that's possible. Put your mother's face on that lady who's there. I think you'll get the point.
This is not a moral issue, it's a mental health issue.
These so-called experts virtually always say, mental health, which does not exist. This separation of the mind from the body is obsolete 600-year-old Cartesian reductionist science, which merely treats symptoms mainly with endless so-called talk therapy, along with virtually endless drugs, surgeries, major side effects like dental problems, from cravings for refined foods from the pharmaceutical drugs, along with many other side effects. What if there were a better way? There is. It's called by many names, including systems science, integrative medicine, holism, orthomolecular nutrition, and many others. We need to analyze the whole body terrain, rather than merely attacking a singular aspect.
We fall victim to the modern medicine acute, limited orientation, when we exhaust all options including celebrity fad practitioners, fad diets, and other misleading influencers.
There is a better way. Obtain a free cell nutritional and organ function assessment at nutriable.com.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Major campaigns to confuse you.
Yeah. And we saw that during the lockdowns. I was in Ottawa during the lockdowns, barely even working, just surviving off savings. Thank God I had savings. And there's people, homeless people there, and they were bringing in immigrants from other countries without getting the vaccines.
Right.
And they were just bringing them in by the millions.
Yeah, right.
Well,
how could you not know? It's like here in the States, you could go to a restaurant,
yeah,
and have to wear a mask while you're standing in line to get into the restaurant. But as soon as you got to the table, you could take your mask off. Like, now, where in what world would you have to live in that's to realize that that's just a way of controlling people, that there could be no possible way that a major virus would be out there if you were allowing that type of protocol, mask here, no mask right there. Well, wouldn't a virus be able to pass through? And so why are we going through this goofy, ritual when it's not helping anyone?
Yeah.
Or protecting anyone.
Yeah.
So that again is just another way that they all confuse. A few years back, right, everybody had to become a vegetarian. Well, you could probably explain that better than anyone, like why that doesn't work.
The main fact is that we need to get individualized help instead of merely adopting some general thing we see online or some general diet that we see online. It's far more than that. It has to be individualized.
That's interesting. Interesting. So what up? So what else have you discovered about all this in your journeys?
When I took this, you mean in the specific subject regarding orthomolecular nutrition or orthomolecular medicine started in Saskatchewan in the 1950s. That was supposed to be Canada's healthcare system. It was supposed to be Canada's healthcare system. It was supposed to be true healthcare, not the sick care system we have. It was supposed to be more preventive, more restorative. Remember, We're just like plants. Plants are more complicated than us, and yet animals get all kinds of help to keep their health well. Why? Because they don't have health insurance. The health insurance is the farmer. So the farmer's not gonna. They have to produce a product. The animal's a product. It has to go to market. It has to be somewhat healthy, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the animals still are not fed properly. They're fed too much wrong fats and all these types of things. That's a big reason why we're getting sick. But anyway, that if you see the way people are treated and with the label of mental illness, and that orthomolecular medicine, or it was also called orthomolecular psychiatry, that's where the word psychedelic came from. They had plans to set up hospitals, like mental hospitals, but they closed those down like 50 years ago. But they had plans to set up real hospitals to get people well instead of just keeping them there for their entire lives, which they did with many people.
Right.
It's really sad, really sad. I read stories back in 100 years ago. They would keep like people's uncles or aunts in a mental hospital their entire lives, and there's no such thing. No such thing. For my case, what was causing the most of my problems was a minimum. My B12 was far too low, but the doctors are saying that was normal. But they don't even check the other. They're not trained in cellular nutrition. When you hear people say they're not trained in nutrition, it's not merely food, like, eating food. You might need to get an injection. I have to do an injection every once in a while. And testosterone. Many men have low testosterone. They don't even know, so they get fat. They get depressed. So I'm just starting up testosterone again, and I'm starting to do more. It's not just for exercise. It's when you have less body fat, when you have less muscle, it has all kinds of effects. Like your blood sugar goes high. There's all kinds of effects.
Yeah,
so this type of thing I'm talking about.
I've dealt with that directly, and I've just been big on that ever since my 50s, as far as make sure, the testosterone, and all that is, you're right. It's just not for sexual purposes.
No, that's what everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's what your body needs.
Yeah,
and if you start there, for a man, that's a great indicator to see why you might have a problem. And that actually happened to me. That the T was low. You start to get heavy. You start to get depressed. You start to have, nothing good comes from it.
Yeah.
And then when you reverse it, everything changes.
Yeah. That brings up a good point. Also, I was planning on when women or transsexuals go to doctors and they complain about mood swings, you know what'll happen?
No.
The point I'm trying to make is doctors and will readily and almost very easily give hormone replacement therapy to women and transsexuals, but not to men. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
That was a wild ride. Hello. Hello. Man, I don't get this.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was trying to play a video. Sorry about that. And it was only allowing me to play full videos on YouTube, not YouTube Shorts. Anyway, we were talking about
hormone therapy.
Yeah, hormone therapy.
No, I wouldn't know why they wouldn't. They don't want men to give men hormone therapy.
Well, I think it's political. They don't want men to be healthy.
Oh, all right, okay.
And testosterone usually is the male hormone. It's not. There's different forms of testosterone. There's usually like free testosterone and total testosterone in a blood check. There's one that binds to proteins, and the other one is kind of like doesn't do that. Anyway, it's also a political thing, and there's also an old myth that testosterone causes prostate cancer. They have all these myths mainly so men don't get proper help, and it's actually low testosterone that causes prostate cancer. But it's not just testosterone you have to worry about. It's your whole cellular nutritional terrain and the toxins in your body and where you work and that type of thing. That affects hormone levels as well.
So you're saying they don't like strong, healthy men because
you could say that. Yeah, it sounds kind of nefarious, but yeah,
I've heard that because the other type just kind of falls in line. And like I would almost say, the type of man we were just talking about is probably at least here in the States, the vaccinated.
Yeah.
And the other type of man is the unvaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Who will comply easily and who won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I made some videos about this on my YouTube channel, but it's really interesting. And even transsexuals, if a woman or if a man wants to become, if a woman wants to become a man, they will easily give them, not easily, maybe not easily, I would say maybe a strong word, but they will more readily give them testosterone therapy than a man, than a man born a man. And you know, that's it's a political organization, it's the ideologies in the medical system. It's become bloated. Modern medicine is very politicized.
Wow.
And hormone replacement therapy is easier to get for women than men. Why? It's a big political system. There's more focus on women's health. Women and transsexuals are given testosterone and hormone replacement therapy like estrogen easily. And all the focus is on women's health, and they say that there's gender bias. There definitely is.
For the Canadians that have been asking me, where can I get TRT in Canada? I've been trying to, go through my doctor. It just hasn't been working out. They're just not informed. They just don't know.
And I keep hearing
they certainly do.
Canadians are so nice. Canadians are so nice.
Oh yeah.
They can be nice.
Comedian.
Because they have
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big Daddy.
A message from the government of Canada.
Yeah, Big Daddy. Men are starting to get low testosterone at younger ages now.
What foods boost your
You can't get it. It's virtually impossible to get it.
Are no foods that reliably boost your testosterone to an amount that is repeatable, eating the food over and over. Just having all sorts of issues with your doctor and trying to get on TRT, possibly because you're so close to the normal ranges they won't prescribe you. And this guy's going to look at a lot of different factors and figure out if it can actually help you.
Like if you're fat, obese, a lot of obesity, muscle wasting, especially in your 30s and 40s and beyond. Why do you think that is? It's not just because of testosterone, but that would definitely help. But we don't get proper help. We don't get our body analyzed like a botanist would a plant. So is low cost or free, and you can find more at NutriRebel.com's free cell nutritional symptom measure tool. At the bottom left here.
No wonder they're all like, that's more of a Justin Trudeau way of thinking versus maybe a Donald Trump style. And maybe that's why they fear any man that is strong and healthy, because that represents sort of that alpha mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Wow.
Here in Ecuador, you can get testosterone. Here in Ecuador, you can get testosterone over the counter. In Canada, you can't. You could buy it. You could try to buy it illegally, but everything's a risk now because they monitor everything.
Can you get supplements, even like testosterone supplements in Canada? Like, just like Jocko fuel and stuff like that.
There are many fads out there, and to raise your total and free testosterone levels with some magical supplement you see in the store, they're often not reliable. The only way there's certain and so many people think they'll ask me, why do you do injections of vitamins once per week? I said, because you're not going to get it from the food. There's many details. You can't absorb it like you used to. You can't get enough of it in the amounts that you need.
What foods boost your testosterone?
There are no foods that reliably boost your testosterone to an amount that is repeatable, eating the food over and over, and an amount that is meaningfully significant in the grand scheme. They've done a few studies where they've taken people who produce testosterone at a healthy but low end of the range, like 300 nanograms per deciliter or something. And then they take people who produce like close to 1,000, top end of the range. And it takes like months and months and months for any appreciable muscle tissue differences to be even noticed. And so when you're talking about in that context, if I gave you all of the pro-testosterone foods, assuming you were eating enough calories, you were not under eating either proteins or carbs or fats, but it would take your test from like 350 to like 363. Like that's not a meaningful amount to register on any scale, and you will not see it in your health. You won't see it in your performance. You won't see it in your cognitive biases.
You compare it to other countries, you start to see the difference. You said even if you eat all these so-called healthy foods, it's not simply a guessing game. Where's the measurements to prove what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I see this all the time, and I saw it growing up, and I never knew what to do. And my own health problem, I had a hiatal hernia, and the doctors never detected it up until maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah. How did you remedy that?
I didn't remedy it. I still haven't remedied it yet. It's a type. I don't even know the details because the doctors they don't give you enough time in Canada to say anything. All they'd have enough time for is to say, "Here, take a pill." That's all that's all that they're paid for. That's all that they have time for.
Take a pill.
Yeah, and so anyway, the main point is that we're not getting individualized help. Even if you do get these diagnoses, where's the remedy? Anyway, and like I said, with the testosterone, I wonder why there's so many weak, fat guys. We're just like commodities. Instead of helping us stay well and keep well, they just import new immigrants to take our spot.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I see that now. Yeah, that definitely was planned.
Yeah. And I can tell you when I was so-called when I was labeled mentally ill, it's just and when you're not well and people think that's what it is, so they kind of treat you as like a leper. They're like, oh,
right.
You know,
right.
You
to eliminate you though too. It's
Yeah.
a way, you know, like you tell reductive, they reduce you to this.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you're not taken seriously then.
No, that's right. And your own family members do that to you too. So whatever you say, they're like, well, whatever label you tell them, they'll look it up online. They'll say, well, this is this. None of that stuff is anything near scientific in the systems biology realm, or you know what I'm saying?
It's a byproduct, it looks like, of a gynocentric culture.
Yeah.
And you know, and the irony is that technically, only a strong man can protect you. I mean,
yeah,
only strong men can. You know, these Western civilization can only survive based on. I think even Jordan Peterson talks about that now.
Oh yeah,
you know that it can only survive. Obviously, you want men to be civil and refined, but they also have to be capable of going to the extreme as well in order to protect your culture. Because if you don't have a strong man, you basically will just be overwhelmed by the enemy.
Correct. Did you not write some books regarding this topic somewhere?
I've written not any on this subject. I've had some articles, but my books that I've written are mainly like novels, short stories, children's books. But I do kind of, you know, and I also am a songwriter. So in some of my songs, I've touched on these subjects for the benefit of men, right? I wrote one song, Disposable Man, The Disposable Man, which kind of plays into what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
How easy it is for us to be disposed of in this gynocentric culture.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they did to you. Once they could label you, he's mentally ill, he's disposable.
Yeah. 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 That's exactly what it is. And I could tell you, it's just like, but a lot of it is people don't know what to do, right? And they search online, and they might send you some Dr. Mercola or whatever, or some other celebrity practitioner, but they are part. I'm not saying they're totally wrong, but how do you know where their funding is coming from and what their agenda is?
Right.
They are there to steer you where they want you to go.
All right. But, you know, if you look at all, you know, from someone like Andrew Tate to even take someone like a Donald Trump, who has had to withstand all of these attacks on him.
Yeah.
Only a strong man, only a person that has good health and is, you know, sort of at the hierarchy of our gender as far as, you know, being mentally strong and everything can withstand all these attacks.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous if you're, you know, a radical feminist. And
look at the whole medical. How do I say this? Many, if not most, of the industries that are in the healthcare realm are mainly women now, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
they have a good reason to keep the industry going.
Yeah, that agenda is, if you have, I would say, a large percentage of the therapists that, and the majority of therapists, women see, or men, they're probably females, or they have a more of a gynocentric ideology.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with this other industry that created this highly profitable feminist lawyers, law firms that cater to women, and to get divorces. So you've got this whole culture moving in that direction, and they feed off one another, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they go to let's say you go to a therapist. What's the answer? Well, the man you're with is bad. He's mentally ill. He's toxic.
Yeah.
So that's there's the answer, and it's always, there's no accountability on the one side. Everything falls to the other.
Yeah.
It's always an attack on a strong man.
Yeah. And he's expected to produce for the family, produce for work, and just take all this. But anyway, I'm going to try to play a video right now. Hopefully it doesn't cut out.
Okay.
If it cuts out, please get on right away. But it's a 9-second video from Fight Club here. Share your video. It's actually funny video here.
We're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need.
Yeah, that's Fight Club. That Fight Club. That movie came out like 26 years ago.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe that's that long ago.
Generation of men raised by women. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it right there. And therefore, anything that gets out of that's extraordinary in their mindset becomes is it more as an issue rather than just normal behavior that the way men behave.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I noticed that if you criticize gynocentrism or criticize women, people ask me, Dave, do you hate women? I said, this is the way they're being trained to reply.
Right, yeah.
You
have to understand the other thing that happens typically is men are always at a disadvantage because normally when a man gets in trouble, he's going through marital issues or whatever, there's a divorce, he's going to focus in and kind of hone in on what he has to do to survive. And so he's going to go work, do an extra shift. He's going to get into his work. He's going to get into maybe his purpose, if he's got hobbies, and just try to. He's not out creating a narrative and then going out to the masses and letting everybody he's talking. That we usually go inward, and they go outward. They go into their collectives, and then the story starts. And without the man even knowing he's being attacked, the next thing he knows, the wagons have surrounded him.
Yeah.
And now he's got even more pressure. He's even got more, right?
Yeah.
And you end up sitting there, everybody pointing their finger at you as either being mentally ill, toxic, you name it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, all you've done is try to, survive and get either your business stronger, your finances better, because ultimately, over time, that's what's going to matter.
Yeah.
The false narrative will go away, but it'll linger for a year or two, and you have to deal with all that. So it's just another thing that's on the shoulders of a man in these type of bad times.
Yeah. I'm going to play this 3-minute video. Hold on. I'm going to play this from right here.
Okay.
Right here. Do psychologists and medical doctors ever talk about this type of video here? Watch.
1950, we had no treatment for any of the major psychoses. The only treatment was to lock them up forever. We had no treatment.
We don't really understand at a deeper level that we are what we eat. And I usually say to people, you look down at your dinner plate and what you see doesn't appear like the raw material for hair or skin or teeth or nails. But that's exactly what it is. We are just food recycling machines.
People don't take care of themselves for one reason or another, and they come to the doctor expecting to be kind of bailed out by taking a medicine, a chemical, in order to treat the disease.
I mean, if we look back at the last 30 years, Homo sapiens is in a really sorry state. There is no question that there has been an increase in mental health problems. And the World Health Organization say that mental health problems have become the major area of health concern.
Psychiatry is very much dominated by the pharmaceutical industry, especially at this time. In fact, almost all of medicine is dominated by pharmaceutical companies. There's virtually no emphasis on nutrition, on lifestyle, on any of those things. Everything is supposed to be solved by the use of psychotropic drugs.
I remember going through libraries looking for answers to mental illness, schizophrenia, madness, insanity, manias of all kinds. There were no answers.
He said, "Oh, you have schizophrenia." And I went, "I do?" And I actually had a name for what I had. And he said, "Do you hear voices?" Well, yes, I do. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
And the mental health business, or the mental illness business, is a multi-billion-dollar business. It generates profits that are in the stratosphere, obscene profits. So Dr. Hoffer and his work and the work of all these extraordinary doctors is an extraordinary threat to that industry.
God didn't say you must only use thiamine in tiny milligrams. God said if you have thiamine, use it as you need it. If you have vitamin C, use it as you need it. And that was the major thing. So I think that's going to revolutionize medicine, starting to do that now. So I don't have the answer, but one day we're going to have the answers. And when orthomolecular medicine has taken over all of medicine, instead of spending billions of dollars examining one drug after another that's toxic, we will now start to look exactly at each particular disease and find out what are the needs for that particular disease. That's what's going to happen.
Back? No problem.
Falls in line with what we were just speaking about. You go in, you got high blood pressure, boom. Instead of coming up with a remedy that can help you live a better life for 30 years, they just give you a pill that lowers your blood pressure too. But now, that pill has side effects. It's got there's all kinds of things there, but no one tells you that.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, I think you're right. I mean, there's so much money that they can make in that industry that it's better to just have men sitting on a couch, depressed, eating Cheetos and gaining weight. And oftentimes they can be, 60-year-old men or 40-year-old men that look 60.
Yeah.
30-year-old men that look 50.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that once you start eating better, eating healthier, working out, you just naturally look better. I saw a photo of a man, and I think he was Japanese recently. He was about 65, but he looked like 30.
Yeah.
And he never eats any sugar. He was talking about his diet, and it was, you could see the result of it right there.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about all these things. A lot of people want to do these things, but they don't know how to do it because they can't get themselves out of that rut. And we actually often, they don't talk about the details. Like, we actually crave what we're allergic to. So if you're allergic to, you don't even know it. You might be allergic to let's say meat, and you crave meat. You might be craving, you crave cigarettes, you'll crave drugs, you'll crave beer. We are allergic to what we crave because it makes at the basic end of it, it makes our blood sugar go up when we get that in our body, and then when it exits, our blood sugar goes back down. So we need more of it, right?
All right.
Therefore, you have to work on many things, and you have to get an individualized assessment. That's what I specialize in. But all these guessing games, all these things, doctors say this, even tell patients, get more exercise, eat better. That's very general advice. That's not helpful at all, because everybody says this, but what are the details? And they don't even know, right? That orthomolecular medicine, that's what they should all know, because it's legitimate. It's proven. It's double-blind studies.
Well, can you explain that more?
It was in that video. Those doctors
that
you saw, yeah. It was developed by a team of researchers and medical doctors in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada.
Okay.
In the 1950s. It's what basically started naturopathic medicine, but many people don't even know what that is either, and they think a lot of it is wishy-washy. That's what I used to think. And a big part of it is even a lot of these alternative doctors, when you go to see them using insurance, they are limited in what they can say and do to you, because they are also, once you have insurance involved, they want you to keep going back.
Right.
It never ends. Even if you have insurance for these people, they still can't do and say certain things, and they're highly restricted.
It's probably the biggest question that we get is, does my insurance cover that? Yep. Will my insurance cover it? What's my insurance going to pay? What am I going to pay after insurance? Why don't you take insurance? I had somebody say, if you took insurance, you would see a lot more people. Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to help more people. Just because I can see more people doesn't mean I can help more people. You understand? Well, what does he mean by insurance? Insurance is healthcare. Bull crap, guys. You understand? Insurance is sick care. Yep. You understand? Healthcare is sick care. Doctor is disease management care. They just want to take care of whatever disease you have. How can I shut this patient up as quickly as possible so that they can move on and we get them the drugs that they need and they can wait and come back when they need more?
Insurance companies are there to make money, and they make a lot of money. And it's because of how the system's set up. Guys, your insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and the medical world, they all work together for one primary goal: to make money, not to be healthy.
No, to get you well.
No, guys, we're the sickest country in the world by far. The sickest country. But yet, we're mandated to get all these insurances. When Obama came through, you have to get insurance. I haven't had health insurance since in my whole adult life. So I got to pay a fee every year because I don't have insurance. It all starts with testing. I mean, that's one of the big things. And guys, listen, I mean, there's some tests that insurance companies will help with, but they say that most of our testing is not medically necessary. Because again, we're testing looking for the cause of disease, and your medical doctors are testing to just track and manage your disease. And guys, the testing is dramatically different. The treatment's dramatically different. If you're healthy, you're worth nothing. If you're dead, you're worth nothing. So they want to keep you right here in the middle, right? They don't want to cure anything. They don't want to test to look for cause of disease, right? They want to just manage your disease process, keep you on the medications. And guys, that is not healthcare, that's sick care.
Listen, insurance covers less and less and less, and you have higher and higher deductibles anyways. You're paying out of pocket one way or another. Do you want to pay for sick care? Do you want to pay for true health care? It's your choice. Everything is your choice. You being sick is also your choice.
And understand this, guys, 80% of bankruptcy caused from medical bills, 80% of the time, you're fully insured. Fully insured, and 80%, and you're still going into bankruptcy because of medical expenses. So guys, and the same statistic, 80% of all medical expenses is diagnostic testing. So, these insurance companies are making so much money off of running you through tests, and at the end of the day, what do you normally hear? You're fine. Everything's normal. I know, but doc, I'm having all these symptoms. I know, but your tests say you're fine.
But again, unfortunately, your insurance does not cover the proper testing. If it did, why would we wouldn't be as sick as we are. You understand that, right? If insurance covered the proper testing, the proper supplements, the proper care, we would not be as sick as we are. Yet we get sicker and sicker every darn day. Yep. Because we're letting the insurance companies dictate healthcare.
It is so scary you wouldn't believe.
I remember when I was a young boy, I had to have a surgery, and I think the surgery, I think, cost my father $75. Yeah. This is like in 1966, maybe. And think about that, a surgery. What had happened is I had got shot with a BB, went into my through my nose up into my brain, and they had to go in there and get it out. Right, it was not an easy task. Well, $95 for that surgery. And of course, like you said earlier, that doctor had to make his services affordable to the people he was serving. But if you put insurance in there today, if the same surgery were to be had today, that's a $40,000 surgery, because insurance is in between the doctor and the client. Yeah. And it's just this is what's happened into these industries. There's so much money, and like you say, even in this holistic practices, the insurance gets in the way.
Yes, yes, and they're highly restricted, and even if you think you're getting help, you're actually not. And
Right.
a lot of people like me fell into that trap. Yeah, it's very frustrating. Even so, many people, they just don't get help. They just stop trying to get help.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to, when my father recently went to the hospital, or before he passed, he basically had the flu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody at the hospital told me he just had the flu.
Yeah.
And before I know it, he's caught up in all this type of stuff happening. All he really should have been done, they should have just treated him that night for the flu and then let me take him back home. But next
Yeah.
thing you know, he's admitted. And once he was admitted, he never came out.
Yeah.
For the 3 years. And there's no possible way that this should have happened. But it's just the system we are in.
Yeah.
Forced him into that. No one talks. And the next thing you know,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He's
probably the biggest question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The next thing you know, he's in their world, and that's not why a lot of guys don't want to go there, because once you get in there, they're finding things, and then they got to make money off you. That's how most men feel. And it's better to die under a tree, right? And it's better probably for your family too, than to go into the hospital and waste all that money on people that are just kind of play acting like they're taking care of you.
Yeah,